And welcome to the City of Highland Park Zoning Board of Appeals meeting on Thursday, October 5th, 2023. Patrick, can we get a roll call?
Member Trushansky. Member Beck.
Here.
Maria Vaughn. Bransky.
Here.
Hendrick.
Here.
Bay.
Here.
And Chair Butler.
Here.
We have 4.
Thank you. Have my colleagues had an opportunity to review the minutes from the September 21st meeting?
Yes, we have.
In that case, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as drafted.
I'll second. Member Beck.
There was a motion by Vice Chair Bay with a second by Member Beck to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion was adopted. Is there any business from the public other than items that have already been published on the agenda? Not seeing any. That brings us to old business. We have one application this evening. It is application tree-2023-00128. The property at 1125 Crofton Avenue North. The appellant is Keely Roberts. Patrick, presentation, please.
Okay. Great. And okay, thank you. So the application for 1125 Crofton Avenue North is for the removal of a heritage tree. Here you can just see the location of the property, located in the R5 zoning district, mostly surrounded by R5, neighboring an R4. The applicant is Keely Roberts. The proposal is a heritage tree removal permit. It is an R5 zoning district with the minimum lot requirement of 12,000 square feet, which it exceeds. The existing home was built in 1977, according to the Lake County Assessor's Office, and this project was continued from the September 21st ZBA meeting. The requested relief is to remove one heritage tree, a 37-inch swamp white oak that is in good condition. The following proposal is a Chapter 94 consideration and not a Chapter 150. So here is an aerial shot of the property. The yellow star is the approximate location of said heritage tree. You notice that this is a lot in depth property. Here's some just existing photos of the property just to kind of establish the orientation of what the tree looks like and where it is adjacent to the house and adjacent to the driveway. Here is the Plattus survey just to again show the existing conditions. Blue shading is the existing house, yellow tree is the heritage tree, or yellow star is the heritage tree. As for the proposal, again, blue shading, existing. Yellow shading is the proposed accessory structure that will be necessary to remove the heritage tree for construction. The applicant also submitted this kind of alteration. There was notes with the third-party arborist from Davie stating that if the accessory structure was closer than 20 feet, it would risk damage to the oak tree. Oak trees are particularly sensitive to excavation, so if they were to build anywhere closer than 20 feet, it would risk the tree dying and then later having to be removed. And that removal will be more difficult with that existing structure kind of being in place, and it could damage the accessory structure. I'll let the applicant speak more on the design aspects and how the garage will flow with the property. So other comments, Forestry included a memo with the agenda packet. They are not in support of this project, but all other divisions in city staff has no comments, and there were no public comments for this proposal. So again, this is to remove a heritage tree, 37-inch swamp white oak in good condition, or construct a detached accessory structure, and the board is to use the Chapter 94 standards of approval. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, we can let the applicant speak, and maybe they can answer some of your questions as well.
Any questions for Patrick? Not seeing any? Thank you. Would the applicant like to come up?
You know, the exhibit that shows the alternative would be helpful.
If you'll provide your name and address for the record?
Richard Becker, Becker Architects, Highland Park, 595 Elm Place.
Thank you. Do you hereby affirm or attest that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So I'll say at the outset that our attorney, Cal Bernstein, was called away, so he's not here attending to this case tonight. And we're representing Keeley and Jason Roberts. And Keeley asked if I would read a short statement at the front end, and I brought copies of it. Highland Park Zoning Board members, although disappointed that I'm unable to attend tonight's meeting, in all honesty, I'm more saddened to be in need of coming before you at all. I wish I did not have to. Had my family and I not had our lives completely devastated by the mass shooting at the Highland Park 4th of July parade, had my sweet little boy Cooper not been cruelly paralyzed by his gunshot wounds, resulting in our need for changes across all aspects of our lives, such as housing and transportation, I never would have had to bring this application before you tonight. I'm not in attendance because I've been asked to speak at an event being held by Dare to Try in Chicago tonight in advance of this weekend's marathon. Dare to Try is a Chicago-based not-for-profit specializing in adaptive sports, recreation, racing, competition, while cultivating a sense of community for all athletes. I appreciate your understanding why I felt it was so important to attend this event. And this was a scheduled speaking engagement that she knew about before we had to continue this case. So she asked me to apologize that she's not here. So I know if you've read the narrative, you know the personal circumstances of this family. They need daytime care, and they need an extra place for a caretaker to be during the day. This is part of the reason that drove this accessory structure. We're also putting a ramp into the garage to make the house accessible for Cooper, which resulted in losing a bay. So we need an extra car bay, and that's why this structure is being proposed. And those are personal, and that I know the hardship can't be about personal circumstances. I served on the board for long enough to know that, but I would like to talk about the things about the property that make it unique. It is a lot in depth. It has narrow side yards. Normally, we would put an accessory structure in the backyard. That's normally where people put their garages, not in the front yard. On this property, there's only one place to put it. Further, there's a courtyard built into the house that makes it so that if you were to block it, it makes it very awkward getting in and out of the house, and it makes the garage really kind of a major element in the elevation of that house. So between it being a lot in depth and the narrow lot line situation and this tree, now there's a lot of moving parts, but we've sited it in a place that totally conforms with zoning. It meets the front yard, the side yard setback, it meets the distance required to the main structure. It meets all the requirements but for this swamp oak. So I spoke to Davy Trees, Patrick Etherington, who came and looked at the oak. He looked at the root structure, and it was his opinion that in order to try to save the tree, we would have to site this garage 20 feet away from it, which really kills the front yard of this house. There's a couple of logistical, problems with pushing it forward like that. As I said a moment ago, it blocks the courtyard entrance to the house, but it also makes it very hard to get the vehicle into the garage that Cooper will be using and then back out to do the three-point turn and go up the driveway towards the street. So we don't feel it's a practical solution building the structure in that alternate location. But the ordinance asks us to show other, ways to remedy it that would comply. So we went through the exercise of showing it, but I don't think it's practical. So we're asking that you allow this swamp oak to be removed. Can't think of anything else to say. You have any questions? There must be questions.
Is there any, okay. I'm sort of seeing there are two vertical lines from the yellow box.
We're talking about
bottom
the
of
left
the screen.
exhibit?
Yeah, is that a,
That's the turning, that's the, to do a three-point turn. To
Okay.
back out, that's kind of what you call a kick out when you turn a car.
right? So
45,
what I was trying to
90.
figure out is could, you've got it the 20 feet, could the garage have come down to the other end of the what we called in Virginia, pipe stem, the driveway?
Well, it can't come any further southward because now you won't be able to get into the main garage.
Oh, okay.
That's the problem. You have to be able to navigate both garages.
Gotcha.
That's the problem. And then you also want to have the use of the front door of the house too. I didn't prepare a 3D model of this, but I thought it would be pretty self-explanatory that this is an awkward situation, this left exhibit, because it cuts off the entrance to the house. It's just a very strange set of circumstances there. So we don't feel it's practical, and we feel like they, and there's another point I wanted to make. The FAR for this property that you kind of earn for a property this size is 4,500 feet. The house is at 3,600, so they have 900 feet that they could use, but they really can't even use all of it because of how oddly configured this lot is. So right out of the gate, they can't use some of the developable area. This is a way to use some of it, but without constructing it in that footprint over there, it's not really going to work on the property. So I should make that point.
You haven't heard anything from the neighbors, yay or nay?
No, nothing. I don't feel it really impacts anyone. This tree is like buried in kind of a buffer. There's photographs in the exhibit that, I don't know if, that was sent as part of the packet, right? The photograph?
Yeah, I was looking at the photograph. Doesn't look like there's anything
It's
behind
all like kind of built into a buffer of green. You don't really see the tree. It's kind of somewhat invisible. Not really a presence. Like if it were floating in the middle of the property where everybody sees it, I think it'd be really different. But this is at the property line.
If they take down the tree, are they planning on doing any replacement landscaping or anything additional?
Whatever there'll be a requirement, I assume. They'll be planting trees like whatever the ordinance requires. They're not looking for, relief on that. Scott Byron is the landscape architect. He's working on a layout for the property. There's going to be a pool for Cooper to use for the rehab.
Any other questions?
I have something that I want to say on
Yes.
behalf of the city, but I want to.
Councilmember Ross?
Thank you, Chair Culliver. And I am going to try to be very careful about what I say. I shared previously with the Zoning Board of Appeals that Corporation Council, as well as our city manager, has asked that council liaisons not drive discussions. So as you all know, I've been very quiet for months. However, today I did double check with the city manager, Gita, by phone, who gave me some reassurances. And I'm speaking up because I feel a duty to represent the interests of the city and this family that has suffered greatly. I am told it is fine to share with you that the council strongly supports saving heritage trees, in particular oaks. They are generational trees. There's no replacing them in our lifetimes. And this packet estimates that this one is nearly 200 years old. And whether or not you can visually see it, there's a lot of living beings that make their homes in a single tree, and it adds to the health of our shared Highland Park environment. And I know the council is very concerned with sustainability, so a larger, driveway, paved surfaces mean more runoff. And my question, I somewhat answered, but has the applicant considered every option? I'm told I'm allowed to ask this. Considered every option to save the heritage tree. And, I mean, obviously you just walked through that.
Right.
The alternate, and I maybe stepping a little bit, I'm not entirely sure that I'm allowed to say this, but yeah, that graphic is helpful. You know, if the structure is in the first, or at least further south, you could,
I mean, the problem is navigability. It's not just the structure where it sits. It's
Yeah.
like actually getting in and out, especially with a larger vehicle.
even if it's-
That would be for
if it's
a
further
wheelchair.
north,
With that,
even if it's further north.
well, we can't go further north. We'd have to observe the 20-foot setback. So further north, I mean, further north is what we're proposing.
I'm sorry.
You're saying further south. You
I
wanted
meant
to.
to say further south.
But,
That's what I meant to
and
say.
the thing is, the irony is on a site this tight, and I didn't make this point, you're kind of like trapping a whole quadrant behind a garage that nobody can really use. It's kind of like dead space. So while I think a swamp oak is important, and we've worked on many projects where we've saved a lot of heritage trees and many other trees, like sometimes it's just the only way you can solve it, and this is a very unusually configured property that we think complies with the standards. They're the fourth standard, I think, that addresses unique aspects of the property. This is a very unique property, and they don't make lots in depth anymore, partially for these kinds of reasons. It creates so many constraints. It doesn't please me to take down the tree. You have to weigh, and everyone will have to weigh the pros and cons, and we think the personal needs and the needs of the property suggest that tree is kind of like not working with, people live in houses, so there's their needs too, so.
With the structure pushed all the way up, north, I got the direction right, north, it eliminates any possibility of a garden back there, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Scott Byron is developing a pretty elaborate landscape plan for the site, so there's going to be a lot of plantings.
Thank you, I asked my question.
And I totally understand where you're coming, I understand where you're coming from.
When I say advocate, I'm told that I am to speak to what the concerns of city council would be, and that I'm fully.
But why this case? We have a plethora of heritage tree applications, and city council has never weighed in. Why, for one heritage tree in this particular case, is city council weighing in like that? We had a golf course where there were 16 heritage trees that were being cut down. No one came and voiced an opinion then. It is my opinion that that's kind of inappropriate in this case, honestly, and it's not consistent with what has been done over years. I don't understand. I'm honestly shocked for one heritage tree that the city council weighs in this particular circumstance.
May I speak to that?
Member Ross?
Thank you. I, as you know, have only been on council for 4 months, and 4 months-ish, and there are, I don't know, I cannot recall when those trees were cut down. I'm, very disturbed by that, but I don't, when was that? In any event, it was prior to my time on council. And I specifically, we've talked a lot about sustainability and trees during our council meetings and budgetary meetings and committee of the whole meetings. This has been a conversation about trying to add more trees. So I feel that it's important to speak to it, and
So will city council be making this?
I believe, I'm sorry, Member Hendrick, I believe what she's trying to say is the city council has discussed trees in general.
including,
But have you addressed this specific application, and has city council asked you to come forward with regards to this specific application, or just representing the city council's view on trees in
the
general?
latter,
Okay,
And I think it's fair to speak to that.
that's fine. But you, just so everyone knows, city council did not discuss
I did not mean to imply that.
1125 Crofton
And
Avenue.
thank you for clarifying that. Yes, I
Okay.
did not mean to imply that.
Does that do you understand?
I mean, I understand, but I still don't understand in a different way. So, I mean, will city council be weighing in on every heritage tree application then?
I can't speak to that yet. I mean, I have,
Because presumably,
my hope is that we will take more care with heritage trees, maybe even map them out, but that's a story for another day. That's my hope. But I wanted to ask the questions, and I know ultimately this is your vote to make, and I, honestly appreciate, Richard, your explanation of why you're doing what you're doing.
Right.
I felt that it was, I remain undeterred, even though I appreciate Commissioner Hendrick's comments, I really do, but I still feel it was important to speak up that's my understanding of what I can do as a
I don't think the council would actually have any authority to weigh in on a heritage tree application other than by changing the standards.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, otherwise it's our bailiwick, it's our job.
I think this was inappropriate and weird. That's my opinion.
And I did run it by the city manager because I was concerned to, and she said it was absolutely fine to speak to how council feels about heritage trees.
And maybe within the realm of what the technical rules are, maybe it is. I don't know one way or the other, but I am surprised because I've seen just so many heritage tree applications, and it just seems very strange to have a statement about advocating for essentially the tree's position over the petitioner, whereas I would have expected City Council to remain neutral as they have done for every other application. We've never, in my time on the board, never had City Council weigh in. We know the policy and we know what they want because of how harsh the standards are. Standards are very hard to meet. So we know what the city's policy is. And I apologize for going through this, but based on the backstory and everything else in this application, I'm sensitive to the fact that this was brought up. To me, this is a very difficult set of circumstances, and I'm sort of ashamed that this came up during this particular hearing. So I'm upset.
I want to make one more comment, which is that I'm very aware of the circumstances very aware of the circumstances, and I started my comments by saying this community cares deeply about this family and what, their well-being. Certainly I care as well. This is my first heritage tree zoning, case. I haven't had any others to, compare them to. And I was hoping for, in bringing it up, I was hoping for a solution that better both addressed the needs of this family as well as possible, and this community's tree. It's not just it's a tree, these trees belong to everybody, but in any event, it was not to propose something that was worse for this family, but hopefully better for the family.
It's my professional opinion, having done a number of heritage tree cases and dealing with trees a lot of times with new construction, it's my professional opinion that the two really can't coexist here. Like, I can't meet the needs of this special circumstances with this family. It can't coexist with that tree, unfortunately. I'm very sorry that that's the case. It's not, I take no pleasure in it, but that's the reality.
And I really appreciate that, Richard. We obviously are friends, and I value your
colleagues, fellow architects,
and friends.
Yeah.
And we've served together in the community, so I value your judgment a lot. I really do, and you know that, I think. And again, it was my hope to get sort of a win-win, something that was possibly even better for the family and save the tree. And,
Right.
But if that isn't possible, I understand that too. And I did feel that I needed to, speak up, and I ran it by, like I said, city manager, even asked if I should run it by corporation council. They said no, and so here we are. And I'll cut my comments at that. But I do care about the family, I really do.
Are there any other questions from my colleagues? Before we proceed, I'm going to read in to the record, just so that we are totally open and clear, the email that I sent Patrick and Hart, and then I'm going to read in Hart's reply, just so that everything's on the record and so that you all know we have nothing to worry about. Okay, so my email from Wednesday, September 27th was, Patrick, thanks for your email. I will be there. I have a question that may require corporation's expertise, so I have copied Hart. Since the applicant or appellant for 1125 Crofton created two GoFundMe fundraisers, one for her son's care and a second for a new home, and was possibly the recipient of funds from the HP Community Foundation's July 4th fund, do ZBA members need to disclose any contributions made to these fundraising efforts? Thanks, Kevin. Hart's reply on Wednesday, September 27th was, gentlemen, good question. This is not a concern under our ethics guidelines. Any ZBA member who contributed can participate fully in the proceedings with no requirement to disclose anything. All right, just so that everyone's aware. We just wanted to make sure that there were no conflicts of interest if any of us had made contributions to the Community Foundation or to the GoFundMe fundraisers. So with that done, and our note taker, I'm sure you can get those exact from Patrick if you need them. I will begin at this end with Member Zaransky.
While we, typically, never want to take down a heritage tree, regardless of the situation, I feel that, our standards have been met. I feel, most importantly, that there certainly is not a practicable alternative, which you've, proven, and I support the removal of the heritage tree.
Thank you. Member Hendrick?
I agree with Board Member Zaransky. I believe that the standards have been met and articulated well, both in the written and the verbal that you've given today. I agree that I often focus on whether there's a practicable alternative, and based on the lot and everything else going on with this home, I don't believe that there is. And again, looking through the other standards and reading your analysis of them, I agree with the statements made and believe the standards have been met.
Thank you. Member Beck?
I support the application.
Thank you. Vice Chair Bay?
I have nothing to add other than my support as well. I believe the standards have been met, and I would vote to allow the removal of the tree.
Thank you. I'm going to agree with my colleagues. In this instance, I would agree that the removal of the tree meets the standards. I would like to note to City Council that this body does take our job seriously. We do weigh the standards that are before us that have been adopted by City Council. That if City Council wishes to make the standards to remove heritage trees stricter, that is certainly City Council's prerogative. That is not the prerogative of this body. Our job is to interpret the application as it measures up to the standards set forth in the City of Highland Parks Code. I will also note that both this board and PDC and City Council have, on a number of occasions, asked homeowners, developers, whomever it may be, to resituate a building in order to attempt to protect a heritage tree. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. We saw on Oakwood, the one Highland Place building was pushed further back, and that tree out at the curb still died. It happens. You know, it may have died anyway, even if they hadn't built a building. We don't know, if it just quickened the pace or not. But I do believe, as a number of our cases have shown, we do take balancing the public's interest in trees versus the property owner's right to develop that parcel. So with that,
I would just add just a little context to what you said, if I can just jump in. I work in many communities in Illinois and in other states. Highland Park's got a very strict standard. I mean, this town is as strict as any place in the country I've worked, and I've pulled permits in many municipalities. So I think you have a lot going on here right now. It's very restrictive, and I would tell the Planning Commission, I'd come in and give testimony before they change. They do a text amendment to the zoning ordinance to tighten it. I don't think that's necessary. Overkill, I think. So.
I would just ask that we somehow cover up the former governor's name on the Tree City USA sign down by the rec center, the one who went to jail. Yeah, that one.
Which one who went to jail?
Yeah, really.
So with that, I will entertain a motion.
Member Hedrick would make a motion to adopt the order as presented in the packet.
Member Beck will second.
Patrick will take a roll call.
Member Krasinski, Beck,
Aye.
Member Zaransky,
Aye.
Hendrick,
Aye.
Vice Chair Bank,
Aye.
Chair Tolman.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank
all.
you.
We appreciate your understanding.
That brings us to new business. There is none. Patrick, is there a staff report?
Okay.
No, there's
Miscellaneous? Anybody have anything? In that case, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will move to adjourn.
Member Beck will second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? We are hereby adjourned at 8:05 PM.